Savenaca and welcome. On the 10th of July of this year, the Unity Fiji Party launched an alternative budget, a people-centered budget with the theme, Saving Lives and Livelihoods, a first in Fiji's history. Today, we have with us the Unity Fiji Party Leader, Mr. Savenaca Narube, ready to answer 9 pertinent questions relating to the alternative budget that Mr. Narube and the Unity Fiji team prepared. What is a national budget? To simply put this, it is the government's most important policy document that reflects the proposed revenue and expenditure of the government for a 12-month period. This first segment concentrates on the alternative budget that was recently launched by the Unity Fiji Party. The question was posed to Mr. Narube was, why prepare an alternative budget?
Thank you very much. There are 3 reasons really why we prepared this what we are calling alternative budget. The first is that we understand this is a very serious situation. The crisis has devastated our economy. So we like to make sure that we are well prepared and we have the right policies and strategies in place to address that. The second is that we have been voicing our concerns to government. We have suggested measures that it could take, but up to now, we don't see any results of that. And thirdly, we want to disseminate this information as widely as possible so people are aware of what is going on and aware of what the government is doing about it.
What experience and skills do you have in budgeting?
I know a little bit about budgeting. I was the Permanent Secretary for Finance at that time. It was the Finance Ministry. I've prepared many budgets in the past. I know what budgeting means in the national level. And I'm the only Permanent Secretary for Finance that has posted a budget surplus in the modern history of this country. And secondly, I was the Governor of the Reserve Bank of Fiji, and I designed and led the recovery after our crisis of 2000 and 2006. So I'm well versed with that. I know how to do a crisis, how to handle crisis, and some of the issues that may help in such a situation.
The theme of the budget is saving lives and livelihoods and people focus. Can you explain what these means?
We have seen the number and heard the numbers of workers that have lost their jobs. They are on reduced pay, they are sent on holidays without pay, and that number is increasing. And we see that a lot of families are suffering. So to us, Unity Fiji, our motto is to put people first. And this is a crisis where people are suffering, and we need to put them first. The welfare of our people need to be first. But we see the government that has reacted in a different way. They have asked us to go to our FNPF and draw on our future retirement funds. To me, we need to put people first and take care of the welfare of the families that are suffering. That's why we're calling it saving lives and saving the livelihoods. And that's our next step. Once we save lives, then we go on and save the livelihoods of people, put in place the strategies that are required to perhaps kind of do not deepen our economic depression, and when this crisis is over, come up again and lead us back to some normalcy.
You've talked about printing money. Please explain what this is.
Printing money is not a new thing. Printing money is simply the Reserve Bank financing government operations. We have done that in the past. Many countries are doing it right now. So it's not a new thing. And to us, we need to invent or to implement new and innovative thinking as we face this crisis. So we've done that before. And I'm also suggesting that because government in its own revenue is decreasing quite fast. So government needs some money. So I'm saying that is another channel that we can use to fund the welfare payments that we are proposing that goes directly to the people.
The Minister for Economy said that printing money will raise inflation. What do you say to that?
In conventional economics, he is right. But these are unconventional times. We need to be innovative in what we put in place to rescue us from this situation. And secondly, he needs to look at the whole economic picture first. And that will determine how printing money can impact on inflation. Our economy is depressed. Demand is depressed. So the impact on inflation will be quite moderate. And I would like to tell the minister that inflation is already negative at 3%. So the price pressures are not really there. We can print money to finance government operations that goes to providing the support to our families, and we will not create that inflation.
You mentioned that you could find $1.5 billion in savings. Where would this come from?
That's a very good issue, because over the years, Unity Fiji and I in particular have been highlighting the areas that the government is wasting our taxpayers' money. There's a lot. And we have picked some of those things up in our budget itself. The savings are identified there, but let me just pick perhaps three. The first is that we see the grants that government gives to what we call the state-owned enterprises. They have been increasing manifolds. They are now at around $1.6 billion of grants. But we don't see the performance of these SOEs on the ground. So where is their money coming from? Going to, sorry. And we will need to explore that. So that can be an easy area for us to reduce expenses. The other one, as I've highlighted, the vehicles. There's too many vehicles on the road for government. And government is spending $30 million a year to lease vehicles. And in my time at the Ministry of Finance, that was only a $5 million allocation. So third is that what we see as what is called the special expenses. That to me is a bit of very vague areas of spending. And that has grown to over $120 million a year lately. So we can cut that as well. There are many other areas, but they are there in our budget.
Why did you think that we need to reduce ministers, member of parliaments, and civil servants' pay?
A very good question. You know, many people have lost their jobs. Many families are suffering. And these are the taxpayers that pay the civil servants' salaries. So this is what I'm calling to share the load, a lot, to share the load of this crisis to as many people that can afford to do that. That's why I'm asking that please the civil servants to bear with us on this crisis. And I'm only asking for those above 80,000 to have a pay reduction. But the pay reduction, the rate is higher for those earning higher incomes in government. I'm asking the ministers and the MPs as leaders of this country to lead by example and take pay cut, a further pay cut. So lead by example and let's share this load a lot more than what we're doing right now.
Why have you proposed an increase in VAT?
Government is only collecting about 70% of its revenue right now. It's bleeding. So for me as a financing person and an economist, I would like to see that stabilize. Because the cost of not stabilizing that is much more than the cost of raising some of the revenue measures we are proposing. So we are asking that the VAT be increased back to 12%, but a very important exemption are the essential food items. So we will exempt that.
Are there any other things that you'd like to tell the people?
Just perhaps two, but this crisis is not going to go away any time soon. We look across the world, they are still struggling with this crisis. tourism will take a long time for it to be restored. So we are in this crisis for a long time. And ask us to please take that seriously and do whatever you can do in your own areas at home or at work or at a business to survive this crisis and take it seriously. And I think also the second point is that we need really to work together. The country needs to pull together at this time. Put aside the political aspect of this. Put the people's lives and their welfare and livelihoods well in front of us. We cannot sacrifice that. Thank you.
Tune in next week Saturday at 3 p.m. for more Q&A with the Unity Fiji Party Leader, Mr. Savenaca Narube. Vinaka.